Dr. Amanda Miller stared at the quantum radar display, her coffee forgotten and growing cold beside her keyboard. The anomaly she detected 12 hours ago hadn't disappeared with system recalibration. If anything, it had grown more distinct. A massive object moving through what her colleagues had dubbed fold space, leaving ripples in the quantum fabric of reality. Dr. Miller. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The Joint Chiefs are on their way down. They're saying it's urgent. Amanda barely registered the words, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she refined the sensor parameters. After 3 years of being dismissed as wasteful and theoretical, her quantum detection array was about to prove its worth. The object was definitely decelerating, its trajectory suggesting it would emerge into normal space somewhere between Earth and Luna. The lab doors hissed open behind her. Dr. Miller. The gravelly voice belonged to General Matthews, whom she'd only seen twice before, both times when he was threatening to cut her funding. Please tell me you have something concrete. More concrete than concrete, General. Amanda swiveled her chair, facing the small crowd of military brass now filling her lab. We have a visitor. Mass approximately 3.2 kilometers in length, using some form of space-folding drive technology. They'll be dropping into normal space in roughly 40 minutes. The room erupted in controlled chaos. Orders were barked into secure phones, and Amanda found herself pulled into an impromptu briefing. Her quantum radar array was the only system capable of tracking the object's approach. Everything else, conventional radar, telescopes, even the newer gravitational wave detectors, showed nothing. How long have you known about this capability? A stern-faced admiral demanded. Amanda managed a small smile. I didn't, not until today. The math suggested it was possible, but we needed something big enough moving through fold space to detect it. They gave us our proof of concept. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur. Amanda's lab became an impromptu command center, with her quantum radar providing humanity's only window into the approaching vessel's movements. The United Earth Defense Fleet, established after the development of the bubble drive 5 years ago, scrambled everything they had. They're slowing further, Amanda reported, her eyes fixed on the readings. Energy signature suggests they're preparing to emerge. Mark. The quantum ripples peaked, and suddenly conventional sensors lit up across the board. The alien vessel had arrived, its massive form dwarfing the hastily assembled Earth fleet. Its design defied conventional geometry, all sweeping curves and crystalline protrusions that seemed to shift in and out of focus. They're broadcasting, someone announced. All frequencies, universal mathematical sequences, first contact protocols. Amanda felt a hand on her shoulder. General Matthews stood behind her, his expression unreadable. Dr. Miller, your quantum radar just saved us from being caught with our pants down. I believe I owe you an apology for all those funding threats. Keep the funding flowing, and we'll call it even, Amanda replied, but her attention was already back on the readings. Something about the alien vessel's quantum signature was odd. Sir, they're scanning us, but they're using a quantum detection system similar to ours. Less sophisticated, actually. They seem surprised we can track them at all. The general's eyebrows rose. They didn't expect us to see them coming. No, sir. Amanda's smile grew wider as she analyzed the data. In fact, based on their energy emissions, they didn't expect us to have any quantum-based technology. Their scans keep focusing on our bubble dry ships. Something about our technology is throwing them completely off balance. Good, Matthews grunted. I like starting first contact with an advantage. Dr. Miller, how would you like to join the first contact team? Something tells me we're going to need your expertise. Amanda finally looked away from her displays. Humanity's first steps into a larger galaxy were about to begin, and thanks to her work, they weren't walking in blind. Wouldn't miss it for the world, sir. High Assessor Zixtel's facial membranes flickered with barely contained agitation as Captain Jack Reynolds executed another impossible maneuver with the UES Pathfinder. The bubble drive engage, warping space around the vessel in a way that made the hegemony sensors struggle to maintain lock. "Perhaps, Captain," Zixtol's translator chirped, "you could explain how your species achieved such mastery over spatial manipulation without first developing proper gravitic technology." Reynolds, a former test pilot with a perpetual hint of amusement in his eyes, shrugged. "Sometimes the scenic route gets you there faster, Assessor. We tried gravity manipulation early on, but found it too energy-intensive. The bubble drive was actually inspired by an old science fiction show. Someone asked why move the ship when you can move space itself." Lieutenant Jessica Hayes, manning the sensor station, suppressed a smile as the assessor's color shifted to a deeper shade of purple. The alien assessment team had spent the last 3 days touring Earth's facilities, and each revelation seemed to disturb them more than the last. "And your computing systems," Zixtol continued, mandibles clicking. "You persist with electronic processors when crystalline quantum arrays are clearly superior." "Are they, though?" Hayes swiveled in her chair, bringing up a comparative analysis on her holographic display. "Our latest quantum-enhanced electronic hybrid processors handle complex calculations 23% faster than your crystalline systems. Different path, better results." One of Zixtol's junior assessors actually backed away from the display, all 4 eyes widening. "But this defies the standard progression. No species develops computing power this way." "That's humanity's specialty," Reynolds grinned. "We've got a talent for finding back doors where others see walls. Speaking of which, Hayes, show them the new stealth system." The lieutenant's fingers danced across her console, and suddenly the Pathfinder vanished from all conventional sensors. Even the quantum detection systems the hegemony had been so proud of showed only static. "Impossible." The junior assessor's translation came through as a squeak. "You cannot simply bend probability fields around sensor wavelengths." Hayes finished for him. "Funny thing about quantum mechanics, everything's impossible until someone does it. We call it the Schrödinger shield. The ship is simultaneously detected and undetected until someone actually manages to get a fix on us." Zixtol's color had shifted to an almost sickly gray. "Your species, you development is chaotic, unpredictable. You skip fundamental steps, ignore established progressions." With all due respect, Assessor, Reynolds leaned forward in his captain's chair. "Those progressions were established by your civilization. We're not doing things wrong. We're just doing them our way. And our way works pretty damn well." The assessment team huddled together, chittering in their native language with their translators disabled. Hayes used the moment to send a discreet message to Earth Defense Command, updating them on the aliens' reactions. "Hi, Assessor," Reynolds broke into their discussion. "Would you like to observe our new targeting systems next? Or perhaps a demonstration of our quantum entanglement communications?" That will not be necessary, Captain." Zixtol's membranes were now almost white. "We have seen more than sufficient evidence of your species' capabilities. We must report to the Council immediately." As the assessment team practically fled back to their shuttle, Hayes moved closer to her captain's chair. "They're terrified, sir. Not of our weapons, of our ideas." Reynolds nodded, watching the alien shuttle dock with their mothership through the main viewport. "Can't blame them. We're everything they're not. Adaptable, unconventional, unpredictable. To a species that spent millennia believing there's only one right way to progress. We're chaos theory made flesh," Hayes finished. "Should we be worried about their report to the Council?" "Oh, absolutely." Reynolds' grin hadn't faded. "But something tells me they should be more worried about us. Humanity's got more than a few surprises left up its sleeve." As if to emphasize his point, the Pathfinder's bubble drive hummed to life, ready to show their visitors one last impossible thing before they departed. Colonel Mike Davidson had spent 20 years in intelligence work, but he'd never seen anything quite like this. The holographic display in the Security Council chamber showed the hegemony's massive diplomatic fleet holding position just beyond Mars orbit. 50 ships arranged in what they probably thought was an intimidating pattern. "They're broadcasting their ultimatum again," his aide whispered, passing him a tablet with the latest translation. Davidson nodded, his weathered face showing none of the amusement he felt. The Security Council members seated around him looked appropriately concerned, but he caught the slight nod from the Secretary General. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. In the interest of galactic stability, the hegemony ambassador's translated voice filled the chamber. Earth must submit to hegemony protection and guidance. Your chaotic development poses an unacceptable risk to established order. You have 24 Earth hours to comply, or face total isolation from all galactic trading routes and diplomatic channels. Davidson stood, straightening his uniform. Ambassador Krelix, may I respond on behalf of Earth's Security Council? The holographic alien figure inclined its head. Davidson had spent enough time studying their expressions to recognize the smugness in the gesture. They'd really thought they had humanity cornered. "We've received your ultimatum," Davidson began, his voice calm and measured. "We've also received the encrypted transmissions you've been sending to your fleet for the past 3 weeks. The ambassador's posture shifted slightly, the first hint of uncertainty. "Our secure channels, Air, are using a quantum-based encryption that you believed unbreakable," Davidson interrupted, allowing himself a small smile. "Would you like me to quote your report to the High Council? The one where you described humans as, let me see." He made a show of checking his tablet. A dangerous mutation in the natural order of species development, displaying technological aberrations that must be contained before they spread to other protectorate worlds. The chamber fell silent. The ambassador's color had shifted to the deep purple that Davidson's analysts had identified as extreme distress. "That's impossible," Krelix stammered. "Those communications were protected by the same encryption protecting your fleet's command and control systems." Davidson pressed a button on his console. On the main display, status indicators for half the hegemony fleet suddenly shifted from green to red. "The ones we compromised 3 days after you arrived." Chaos erupted among the hegemony command staff visible in the hologram. Davidson continued, his voice cutting through their panic. "You're not here to protect us, Ambassador. You're here because we scare you. Humanity doesn't follow your rules, doesn't develop the way you think we should, doesn't fit into your neat categories of civilizational progress. You dare." The ambassador's translator barely managed to convey the mixture of rage and fear in his voice. "We dare quite a lot, actually." Davidson nodded to his aide, who transmitted a new set of data. "Take a look at your long-range sensors. Specifically, check the quantum signatures around what you designated as dead zones in your trade routes." The ambassador's staff worked frantically at their consoles. Davidson knew exactly what they were seeing. The first hints of humanity's secret network, carefully revealed to drive home a point. "You can't isolate us," Davidson stated flatly. "We've been building alternatives to your trade routes since we first detected your ships approaching our system. Your ultimatum isn't a threat. It's an opportunity. Cut us off from your networks, and you'll only accelerate what's already beginning." "The Council will never." "The Council will do exactly what scared bureaucrats always do," Davidson interrupted again. "They'll double down on control, tighten their grip, and watch as everything slips through their fingers anyway. You're not bringing Earth to heel, Ambassador. You're about to learn what happens when you try to cage humanity." As the ambassador sputtered threats and demands, Davidson sat back down, exchanging knowing looks with the Security Council members. The hegemony had just made their crucial mistake. They tried to back humanity into a corner. And if there was one thing humans had mastered over their long history, it was finding ways to break free. Admiral Kate Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Nightingale, watching the massive Visari hive ship emerge from its bubble drive transit. The insectoid engineers had taken to human FTL technology like they'd been born to it, which, given their species' innate grasp of spatial mathematics, they practically were. "Emergence successful, Admiral," her XO reported. "The Visari are reporting all systems nominal. Their adaptation of our drive technology is holding stable." Harrison nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. What had started as a covert operation 6 months ago was now bearing fruit faster than even she had anticipated. Open a channel to Hive Engineer's Till. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the mantis-like form of the Visceri engineer. Their species had suffered for centuries under hegemony protection, forced to build ships they weren't allowed to fully understand or modify. The test flight exceeds all projected parameters. Till's translator conveyed their excitement through subtle vibrations. Your bubble drive technology interfaces perfectly with our neural lattice control systems. We've already begun modifying our entire merchant fleet. Excellent. Harrison brought up a strategic display showing dozens of similar operations happening across what had once been exclusive hegemony trade routes. And the other modifications. Our ships can now mask their quantum signatures using your probability field technology. The hegemony sensor networks remain blind to our movements. Till's antennae quivered with barely suppressed glee. We've already established contact with the Proxen trading clans. They're most interested in what we have to offer. Harrison smiled. The Proxens were master traders who had chafed under hegemony trade restrictions for millennia. Send them my regards. And remind them that Earth's technology comes with no strings attached. We're not looking to replace one empire with another. That, Till clicked, is precisely why so many are eager to join your coalition. Admiral. The hegemony demands submission. Earth offers partnership. A priority alert flashed on Harrison's console. Speaking of partnerships, our friends in the Cephine Federation have just made their move. They're announcing their independence from hegemony oversight. The bridge crew tried to maintain their professional demeanor, but Harrison caught the ripple of excitement. The Cephians controlled crucial resource extraction operations that the hegemony relied upon. Their defection would hit the Empire hard. The hegemony will respond with force, Till observed. Let them try. Harrison's voice carried absolute confidence. The Cephians are already running our shield technologies. The Empire's energy weapons won't scratch them. And she checked another incoming report. The Proxens have just accidentally leaked our kinetic weapon specs to 3 other species. Funny how that happens. The Visceri engineer's clicking took on a distinctly amused tone. Accidents do seem to multiply when humanity is involved. Our own weapons researchers had a most fortunate breakthrough in missile guidance systems just days after studying your bubble drive principles. Harrison brought up the larger strategic display, showing the growing web of independent trade routes and allied species. The hegemony's neat, orderly galaxy was dissolving into something far more interesting. Freedom, it turns out, is highly contagious, she mused, particularly when backed by technologies that level the playing field. The hegemony spent centuries telling their protectorate species what they couldn't do, couldn't build, couldn't become. We simply showed them what they could. And now? Till asked. Now we watch the dominoes fall. Harrison's smile grew wider as more alerts appeared. More species declaring independence, more ships switching to human-derived technologies, more cracks appearing in the hegemony's facade of control. They thought they could isolate Earth. Instead, we've connected everyone else. The Nightingale's bubble drive hummed to life, preparing for another impossible transit to deliver more technology to eager allies. The web was growing, strengthening, and the hegemony's grasp on power grew weaker with each new connection. Humanity hadn't just stepped forward. They'd brought the entire galaxy with them. James Cooper checked his ship's quantum masking field one last time as the freighter Star Runner prepared to exit bubble space. Behind him, 3 alien merchant vessels followed in tight formation, their crews trusting his guidance through the invisible corridors that had become known as the Freedom Routes. Hegemony Patrol detected, his eye co-pilot Sarah announced. Standard search pattern. They're looking for us. Cooper grinned, his scared face reflecting in the view screen. They're always looking for us, Sarah. Doesn't mean they'll find us. He opened a channel to his convoy. All ships, adjust quantum harmonics to match my signature. We're going to slide right past them. The merchant ships, 1 Proxen, 1 Visceri, and one from the newly independent Cephian Federation, adjusted their fields. To any hegemony sensors, they'd appear as nothing more than background quantum fluctuations, thanks to the stealth technology Earth had shared with their allies. "Mr. Cooper," the Proxen captain's voice crackled through the comm, "my holds are full of industrial replicators that would make any hegemony customs officer faint. I trust your reputation for never losing a ship." 217 runs, Captain, Cooper replied, making minute adjustments to their course. "Never lost a ship, never paid a bribe, never bowed to their inspections. Though I did once have to outrun a dreadnought. That incident is now required viewing at Earth's Merchant Marine Academy," Sarah added helpfully, "along with 6 other of your creative solutions to hegemony interference." The patrol ships drew closer, their powerful scanning beams sweeping through space. Cooper watched their pattern, waiting for the perfect moment. "All ships, prepare for synchronized bubble jump on my mark. They're about to learn why they call these the freedom routes." The patrol's scan reached its furthest point, creating a momentary blind spot in their coverage. Mark. 4 bubble drives engaged simultaneously, their quantum fields harmonizing in a way that masked their energy signature. To the hegemony patrol, it would appear as nothing more than a brief surge in background radiation. They emerged 2 light-years away, perfectly positioned to reach the independent trading post that had sprung up in what used to be restricted space. Cooper allowed himself a small celebration. Another successful run. "Mr. Cooper," the Visceri traders clicked through the comm, "I begin to understand why the hegemony fears your species so much. You don't just break their rules, you make breaking them look easy." "That's because their rules were built on fear," Cooper replied, beginning their approach to the trading post. "Fear of change, fear of difference, fear of letting anyone choose their own path. But fear's a lousy foundation for an empire." His console lit up with an urgent message from Earth Command. Cooper read it twice, then broke into a wide grin. "Well, friends, I've got some interesting news. The hegemony just tried to seize a human trading post in the Centauri sector. Tried being the operative word." "Casualties?" the Cephian captain asked anxiously. "None on our side. Turns out their energy weapons still can't penetrate our shields, and they're still not very good at dodging kinetic rounds." Cooper chuckled. "But here's the beautiful part. We broadcast the whole thing. Every species under their protection just watched a handful of Earth ships send a hegemony battle group running." The comm channels erupted with excited chatter. Cooper let them celebrate as he guided them into final approach. The trading post ahead was already bustling with ships from dozens of species, all trading freely without hegemony oversight for the first time in centuries. "Sarah," he addressed his AI companion, "send the engagement footage to all our contacts in hegemony space. Let's add some fuel to this fire." "Already done," she replied, calculating that this will accelerate independence declarations by approximately 47%. Cooper watched as his convoy began docking procedures, each ship carrying cargo that would have been restricted or forbidden under hegemony rule. The chain reaction was accelerating, and there was nothing the Empire could do to stop it. Freedom, as it turned out, traveled faster than light. Commander Rachel Winters watched the massive hegemony fleet drop out of FTL, their energy signatures blazing across her tactical display. The Mars Defense Platform sensors counted over 200 warships, the largest fleet the Empire had ever assembled. "All Tesla platforms report ready, Commander," Lieutenant Park announced from his station. "Quantum shields at full strength. Mass drivers charged and aligned." Winters nodded, her expression calm despite the overwhelming force arrayed against them. "Send to all platforms. Hold fire until they cross the Karen line. Let's show them why humanity never abandoned kinetic weapons." The hegemony fleet moved with precise, textbook formation, exactly as their tactical simulations had predicted. Their supreme commander, Sarketh, was famous for his adherence to classical doctrine. Against any normal opponent, his approach would have been flawless. But humanity had long since stopped playing by the old rules. "They're broadcasting," Commander Park reported. "The usual demands: immediate surrender, submission to hegemony authority, dismantling of our unauthorized defensive installations. Send them our standard response." Winters smiled. "Just the coordinates." A single set of numbers transmitted to the hegemony fleet, the coordinates of their greatest defeat 50 years ago, when they tried to subjugate another species that refused to bow. They had erased that battle from their official records, but humanity's intelligence networks have found it. The hegemony fleet's formation wavered slightly. "They're charging weapons," Park announced. "Energy signatures suggest they brought their new phase cannons, supposedly capable of penetrating any known shield technology." "Good thing ours isn't known then." Winters opened a channel to all defense platforms. "All Tesla units, initiate quantum bubble screens. Let's show them why copying our tech without understanding it doesn't work." The first hegemony salvos lit up space like artificial suns. Their phase cannons, reverse-engineered from stolen human bubble drive principles, should have torn through any defense. Instead, the shots hit the quantum bubble shields and simply ceased to exist. "Shields holding at 100%, Park reported, unable to keep the glee from his voice. "Their weapons are literally folding space around their own energy beams. They're shooting themselves in the foot, sir. And now they've crossed the Charon line." Winters noted calmly. "All platforms. Thunder Protocol. Light them up." 42 mass driver platforms, each holding 12 electromagnetic accelerators, opened fire simultaneously. Tungsten rods, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, crossed the space between the forces in seconds. The hegemony's energy shields, optimized for deflecting plasma and laser fire, might as well have been tissue paper. 27 confirmed hits, Park called out. "Their flagship's drive core is destabilizing. Secondary explosions in their escort screen." Winters watched as the mighty hegemony fleet began to break formation. Their tactical doctrine had no protocol for this situation, an inferior force causing catastrophic damage through primitive weapons their shields couldn't stop. "They're attempting to regroup," Park reported. "Looks like they're preparing for a mass energy weapon strike." "Perfect. All platforms. Lightning Protocol." The Tesla platforms synchronized their quantum fields, creating a massive bubble of warped space. When the hegemony's energy weapons fired, the bubble caught their combined output and channeled it through a series of quantum lenses. The redirected energy lashed back at the hegemony fleet like a solar flare. "Multiple drive core breaches detected," Park announced, his voice filled with awe. They're retreating, Commander. The mighty hegemony battle fleet is running." Winters allowed herself a small smile. "Send to Earth Command. Mars defense platforms successful. Hegemony fleet in full retreat. 0 casualties on our side." She paused, then added, "Recommend releasing battle footage to all allied species. Let them see what happens when the Empire brings a light show to a gunfight." As the hegemony ships flood, their once perfect formation now a scattered mess, Winters thought about the message this would send. The Empire had just learned that humanity hadn't developed beyond kinetic weapons because they were primitive. They'd kept them because they worked. General Tom Foster had seen his share of battlefields, but the conference chamber on New Geneva Station presented a different kind of war zone. Representatives from 37 species sat around the massive table, each carrying centuries of grievances against the hegemony, and each wondering if this human-led coalition could really succeed where others had failed. "The hegemony's defeat at Mars changes nothing," the Drachnid representative growled, his scaled face reflecting the chamber's lights. "They will regroup, adapt, return with new weapons. Let them." Foster's voice carried the quiet confidence that had made him Earth's choice for this crucial moment. "Every time they adapt, they're really just playing catch-up. They're still copying our old technology while we're developing new ones." He gestured, and a holographic display showed the growing network of independent worlds and trade routes. "But military strength isn't why we're winning. We're winning because we're offering something the hegemony can't comprehend: genuine freedom of development. The chamber's attention focused on him as he continued. The Visari developed a new form of quantum computing by combining their neural lattice technology with our bubble drive principles. The Proxens integrated their matter transmission technology with our stealth systems. The Cephians, he nodded to their crystalline representative, have created energy generation systems that put everything we've seen to shame. And you claim no ownership of these developments. The hegemony observer, required by the temporary ceasefire, spoke with obvious disbelief. No special rights or controls. Foster turned to face him directly. That's exactly what you've never understood. Innovation doesn't need to be controlled. Progress doesn't follow a single path. Every species here has unique insights, unique approaches, all of them valuable. He pressed a control, and the display shifted to show the results of these collaborations. New ships, new technologies, new possibilities emerging from the free exchange of ideas. My species learned something crucial early in our development, Foster continued. The most powerful force in any civilization isn't weapons, or technology, or even knowledge. It's choice. The ability to choose your own path, make your own mistakes, find your own solutions. The chamber erupted in discussion, but fell silent as a priority message flashed across the main display. Foster read it and smiled. It seems the hegemony's Third Fleet just tried to suppress an independence movement in the Orient sector. Tried being the operative word. The local defense forces were using combined human Visari technology. The Third Fleet is no longer operational. He let that sink in before continuing. But we're not here to destroy the hegemony. We're here to build something new. The Galactic Free Coalition isn't about replacing one empire with another. It's about creating a framework where every species can develop according to their own nature. Pretty words, the hegemony observer sneered. But order requires control. Progress requires direction. Does it? Foster waved his hand again, and the display showed the explosive growth in technological development since the coalition began. In 6 months of freedom, the species in this room have made more progress than in the last century under hegemony guidance. He stood, his presence commanding attention. We're offering membership to all worlds, including current hegemony systems. No conditions except basic rights and technological cooperation. No demanded tributes, no enforced hierarchies, no standard progression of development. And if the hegemony refuses, the Drachnid representative asked. Foster's smile carried centuries of human determination. Then they can watch as their member worlds join us one by one, drawn not by force but by the simple promise of freedom. They can maintain their isolation until they realize that the galaxy has moved beyond their need for control. The chamber filled with approving murmurs. Even the hegemony observer looked shaken, finally understanding that humanity hadn't just created a military alliance. They'd started a revolution of ideas. And ideas, once freed, could never be caged again. Special Envoy Laura Bennett stood at the window of the Unity Station's observation deck, watching ships from 100 different species moving through the newly established diplomatic lanes. 3 years ago, these vessels would have been restricted to hegemony-approved routes. Now they flew freely, their diverse designs a testament to the explosive creativity unleashed by independence. The hegemony delegation has arrived, her aide reported quietly. There, they'd sent their Grand Regent. Bennett nodded, unsurprised. The Empire's ultimate authority figure had finally been forced to face reality. The latest reports showed over 80% of their former protectorate worlds had already joined the coalition. Their economy was in freefall, their military reduced to protecting their core systems. Have them meet me in the Grand Chamber, she replied. Let's finish this. The chamber had been designed specifically for this moment. The circular room featured a massive table with the coalition's founding principle etched in 300 languages across its surface. Progress through freedom, unity through choice. The Grand Regent, a tall crystalline being who had never deigned to meet with lesser species before, waited with what remained of the hegemony's ruling council. Their once elaborate regalia seemed out of place now, relics of an age that was rapidly fading. "Welcome to Unity Station," Bennett began, taking her seat. "I trust you've had time to review the Terra Accords." These terms, the Grand Regent's translator conveyed a mix of disbelief and resignation. "You would have us surrender everything we've built over millennia." "No," Bennett corrected firmly. "We're asking you to build something new with us. The Accords guarantee your territory, your sovereignty, your right to maintain your culture and development path. All we require is that you extend the same rights to others." She gestured to the window, where a Visceri ship was demonstrating their new hybrid drive technology. "Look what your former protectorates have achieved in just 3 years of freedom. The Proxons have revolutionized quantum communications. The Drachnid have made breakthroughs in biotechnology that our scientists are still trying to understand. Even your own border worlds have developed innovations that your standard progression would have forbidden." "And what happens to order?" the Grand Regent demanded. "To stability." Bennett smiled, activating the chamber's holographic display. It showed the intricate network of trade routes, research collaborations, and cultural exchanges that now bound the galaxy together. "Order doesn't require control," she explained. "True stability comes from choice. When species are free to develop according to their nature, to contribute their unique perspectives and abilities, everyone benefits. Humanity didn't overthrow your empire, Grand Regent. We simply showed the galaxy a better way." She slid the final version of the Terra Accords across the table. "Join us. Your experience, your knowledge, your capabilities, all of it valuable. Not as controllers, but as partners. The galaxy is entering a golden age of discovery and innovation. Be part of it." The Grand Regent stared at the document for a long moment. Finally, they'd reached for the signing crystal. "Your species," they said quietly, "has changed everything we thought we knew about civilization's path." "No," Bennett corrected as she added her own signature. "We just reminded everyone that there isn't supposed to be a single path." As the signatures were recorded, cheers erupted from the observation decks where representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered to witness the moment. The hegemony wasn't surrendering. They were evolving, joining a new galactic order built on cooperation rather than control. Bennett walked back to the window, watching as ships from former enemy worlds now moved freely among each other. Humanity had taken their first steps into the galaxy expecting to find conflict. Instead, they had found an opportunity to help forge something greater than any empire. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their possibility. And now, for the first time in millennia, every species was free to explore those possibilities in their own unique way. Dawn had finally broken over the galaxy, and its light promised a future brighter than any civilization had dared to imagine.